Hello everyone, Dr. Suneel Dhand. Welcome to another video. I'd like to think those of you who follow me here do so because you want open, honest debate. You want to hear things that are not being reported elsewhere on the mainstream media. You want to arrive at your own conclusions and, of course, above all else, you want to live in reality. I want to share with you a recent story. It's yet another Big Pharma huge financial settlement for fraudulent activity. It seems like there's one of these every other month, and it's good to be reminded about them when they occur because the media doesn't report them as much as they should. So let me share with you this story. So this was published in a pharmaceutical publication. Biogen finalizes $900 million deal to settle whistleblower's long-running MS, that's multiple sclerosis, kickback suit. Years into a whistleblower suit that alleged illegal kickbacks to physicians, Biogen is now finally able to end the legal saga just as a troubled drug maker attends to a corporate restructuring. Of course it is. Illegal kickbacks to physicians. What can we say? How many times have we heard that before? Biogen has finalized an agreement to pay $900 million to resolve a lawsuit in which a former employee alleged that the Massachusetts biotech paid kickbacks to doctors over a 5-year span, starting in 2009 to boost sales of its multiple sclerosis drugs, the Department of Justice said Monday. Biogen in July said it had reached a $900 million deal in principle. Well, I'm glad that they were able to reach that settlement. It's only $900 million after all, almost $1 billion, just pocket change for them. Because we know in the end who's going to pay in the future for that, don't we? It's going to be the American public, patients, and future Merck customers. But it's okay for them. Only $900 million. Like many companies have done in response to kickback suits filed under the False Claims Act, Biogen didn't admit to any wrongdoing. The company believes its intent and conduct was at all times lawful and appropriate. Of course they did. And Biogen denies all allegations raised in this case. The article then goes on to talk about the sequence of events and the multiple sclerosis drugs involved. So I keep wanting to come back to this point. Think about the staggering sums involved in these financial settlements and what it means for how much these companies are earning. We already know that big pharma companies are among the highest earning in the United States, and consequently they have the most influence on Capitol Hill in terms of lobbying. The lobbying money of big pharma is off the charts. It's a really terrible situation, and it keeps getting worse year by year. But I thought we should remind ourselves, seeing as we're talking about this massive big pharma settlement, let's remind ourselves, I've talked about this before, but we'll recap on some of the biggest settlements for fraudulent activity over the last 20 years. So here we have 2012 GlaxoSmithKline, $3 billion settlement, $1 billion for criminal activity, $2 billion for civil activity, and it lists the various violations here and the drugs involved. 2009, Pfizer, $2.3 billion settlement, off-label promotion and illegal kickbacks. 2013, Johnson & Johnson, $2.2 billion settlement, off-label promotion and kickbacks. And the list goes on and on. Almost every single big pharma company involved in fraudulent and criminal activity. We all know some of the more well-known scandals like Purdue Pharmaceuticals and the opioids, but let's go back to Vioxx. That's always one that I think is worth remembering. Almost 20 years ago, actually just over 20 years ago, that was the anti-inflammatory drug that was being dished out like candy. And of course, there was a big scandal when we found out that it was causing heart attacks and people to die in large numbers. What happened with Vioxx and the company that made Vioxx, Merck? Let's remind ourselves. Merck created hit lists to destroy, neutralize, or discredit dissenting doctors. The ones that they couldn't give kickbacks to, they went after ruthlessly. Because of course, that's what ethical healthcare companies should be doing. But really, are we that surprised that a company that is all about profits would do something like that? Internal emails indicate Merck was aware of Vioxx risks. Merck tried to bury Vioxx concerns. Internal emails suggested Merck recognized that something in Vioxx was linked to increased heart risk. A Merck research chief at the time wrote in the email that cardiovascular events are clearly there and called it a shame. Oh, it's a shame, just a shame, hey, that people are having heart attacks and dying. No big deal, because we really want to focus on our bottom line and making as much profit as possible. He compared Vioxx with other drugs with known side effects and wrote, "There's always a hazard. The company's public statements continue to reject the link between Vioxx and increased intrinsic risk." So how much damage did Vioxx do? It's estimated almost 4 million Americans took the drug, and almost 150,000 suffered heart attacks as a result of Vioxx. And almost 60,000, some estimates even more than that, died as a result of this drug. What a tragedy. Crooks might be too weak a word to describe the people at the top who let these things happen at big pharma companies. But really again, why should we be surprised? When you have companies that are making so much money, that are allowed to make so much money, and are in a merry-go-round with politicians in the form of lobbying at the top, you have to watch them like absolute hawks. Absolute hawks. They mustn't be allowed to have unchecked power. Surely that should be the lesson of the last 20 years. And I leave you with this thought. If any doctor out there had even 1/10 or 1/20th the criminal and fraudulent history of Big Pharma, they would never be allowed anywhere near a patient. Think about that. Thanks everyone for listening. Dr. Suneel Dhand. Let me know your thoughts down below. Do hit the subscribe button for more similar videos in the future. Also hit the bell button so you get notified when I make more videos. And do come follow me on my uncensored platform, locals.com. That link is down below, where we have more open, honest, interesting discussions away from this environment of big tech, censorship and silencing. Real shame I need to say that in the United States, but I do. We will talk again very soon.